Being offended is a choice you make. It is not a condition inflicted or imposed upon us by something or someone else. Every one of my kids has memorized this because I have told them this since their birth. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. God uses, finally, on lessons on not living offended, God uses mistreatments for your good. Thank you. Now, I'm going to give you an example here. Being offended paralyzes your future growth. It doesn't paralyze the growth of the other person. It paralyzes your future growth. I thought it was interesting that God gave me that word because the example he gave me to use with it, and you can take the slide down actually, was Wilma Rudolph. How many people ever heard of Wilma Rudolph? All right, good. Not too many people. So I'm going to tell you some things about Wilma Rudolph. Wilma Rudolph grew up in the church. She was born 20th out of 22 kids and born prematurely. She was an extremely sickly child, and she was left paralyzed in her legs because she caught the scarlet fever, polio, and double pneumonia as a young child. I didn't even know you could get double pneumonia. How do you double it up? I don't even know that. She wound up wearing leg braces due to her paralysis until age 12 when she decided to take a step of faith while going to church. Church was Wilma Rudolph's favorite place to go. And she had these metal braces on. And one day she said, I'm tired of these metal braces. And in fact, the exact quote that she would say is she said, the doctor told me I'd never walk again, but my mother said I would. I chose to believe my mother. She says, today is the day. And she took those leg braces off. And even though it was wobbly, and even though her knees shook violently, she walked in the church, and the church was singing a song, and the church just looked. They never stopped singing. They never stopped praising God as they watched in amazement as Wilma Rudolph began to walk down the aisle. That began the transformation in her life she would finally get strength in her legs so she could walk. Not only could she walk, she was taught basketball because she always wanted to play with her brothers. Again, she had 22 people in her. She was one of 22 people. So when they were playing, she learned basketball. Her legs strengthened, and she learned it to such the point that she began beating the other boys in basketball. But not only that, she took up track. She goes from not being able to walk without assistance in her legs to taking a step of faith, to taking the braces off, to walking legs just a little weak and everything, but they strengthened, to taking up track. She began walking and took up track and came in dead last in each one of her races for the next 3 years before winning her first race. Wilma had a lot to be offended about, but she never gave up. She never gave up her own personal testimony, her belief in God, that God would do something with her life to his glory. To the point that she began winning her first race, and then it never really stopped. She wound up going to the 1956 Olympics and won a bronze medal. And in 1960, she won 3 gold medals. God transformed her life, all because she did not become offended in him or her circumstances. In a period, she went the first 12 to 13 years of her life questioning, why God? Why me? She barely made it out of kindergarten or first grade because she missed so many days due to being sick. For 12 to 13 years before she took a step of faith, and God honored that. And in the span between she was 12 and 16, by the time she was 16, God took her from barely being able to walk to winning the Olympics in the 100, the 200, and the 400 meters. And she never forgot that, to the glory of God. Saints, as I close, don't allow offense to strangle your future. At any point, Wilma could have gave up. At any point, she could have become offended at the doctors. She could have become offended at God. She could have become offended at her circumstance. She could have said, it's not fair. What have I ever done to deserve this? I'm growing up on the church. I'm doing everything I know to do. Where are you? She had every reason to be offended. And some of us as healthy as can be. And we mad because Jimmy still stole my cornbread.